So we're already in February, and I want to know, how are your New Year's resolutions going? Or if you didn't make resolutions, how are your health and fitness goals going? If you're like most people, 2020 was a crazy year. So many of us ended up with a few more pounds on our frame than we'd liked and living a more sedentary life than we liked. So I want to know, how is it going for you so far? Statistics say that 25% of people give up on their resolutions in the first week, and almost 100% of people quit by the end of the month. And I want to know, does that sound familiar to you? Because today we're going to talk about how to get back on track with your health and fitness goals. And it doesn't matter whether this is the first time you've ever fallen off track with your goals because of the whole coronavirus craziness, or if it's your 100th, you're in the right place. Listen, as a coach, I help people with this all the time. And a lot of it comes down to the things that we're going to be covering today. So here's what we're going to go over. We're first going to go over understanding why it's okay that you fell off track and how it's also okay to start again. We're also going to talk about the importance of forgiveness. We're also going to get into helping you to identify what went wrong. And then from there, we're going to help you adjust your program, get started again. And I even have some bonus tips for you, but you got to listen to the whole episode because I only share it at the end. So let's get into it. Well, actually, before we jump into today's episode, I want to tell you that we've got big plans for this year. I'll be sharing more as they start to come into being, as they start to come together, I should say. But in the meantime, I want this podcast to deliver information that really helps you. But to do that, I got to know a little bit more about you. So what we've done is my team and I, we created a podcast survey for 2021. And what you do is you just fill out this survey, and the results are completely anonymous. You don't give me your email. This isn't a thing where I'm trying to get your email or anything like that. So I don't know who said what. It'll take you less than 3 minutes to finish it. And it'll help us start to figure out what direction we should go with content for you. And to fill this out, go to legendarylifepodcast.com/survey. Again, no need to give your email or anything like that. You fill out the survey and you submit it, and we're going to read every single survey. We're going to start to use the information that you share with us so that we can better create this podcast in a way that helps you, or produce this podcast in a way that helps you. So thanks in advance for your help. Now let's get back into it. All right. So like I said, most people fell off track with their resolutions by the end of the month. Statistics at least say that almost 100% of people give up by the end of the first month of a new year. So let's get into the steps that I help my clients with when this happens. So first one is, again, understanding why it's okay that you fell off track, and also why it's okay to start again. In previous episodes, I talked about the stages of change. There's several stages of change that have been figured out through actually working with, I believe it was substance addiction. But it applies to anything because what a lot of this ends up being is it's just habits. How do we change our behavior, right? That's what addiction is. Some of us, we were arguably addicted to social media or addicted to food. Maybe addiction is too strong of a word. Maybe it's just compulsive behavior, but it doesn't matter what you call it. There are these stages of change that people go through. And I'll share them again in case you don't remember or you haven't listened to the previous episodes where I discussed this. There's pre-contemplation. So what is that? That's like, yeah, I'm drinking, I'm smoking, I'm eating, I'm doing whatever, not really thinking about changing. And then there's the contemplation phase. Now I'm thinking about it. I'm smoking that cigarette, thinking, I really got to quit. It's hard to quit. Maybe there's a narrative going on in your mind. It maybe isn't to quit doing the behavior that you want to change. Overeating, not exercising, whatever it is, but there's a narrative there that wasn't there. So we got the pre-contemplation, the contemplation, then there's the preparation. Now you move from just that narrative, and now you're looking to prepare to change. You're looking for options. If we're talking about fat loss, you're looking at, okay, well, what can I do here? What are some things? What are some options? What are some programs? What are some processes that I can use to lose the weight? And after preparation, there comes action. Then you start taking action. Okay. So instead of just reading about it, listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos, reading books, whatever it is, you're in action. Now, if you do that for long enough, 6 months is what the research says. Now you're in the maintenance phase. And what happens after maintenance? Well, of course, there's relapse. Now, we all hate it. When I share this with my clients, they're like, I'm never going to relapse. But the reality is we don't have a choice sometimes. I want to share with you again, because I already shared this previously. I was in Colombia last year when the quarantine happened. I got into amazing shape in the quarantine. Wasn't much else to do for me except work on my business and exercise. But things started going wrong for my father. His health started failing, and it led to this situation where I ended up on a humanitarian flight back to Miami, drove to Vero Beach to be with him because he was in the emergency. He ended up in the emergency room and he was in and out of the hospital. And it was so stressful for me. So even with all the skills, knowledge, habits, everything, my whole planet was turned upside down. So sometimes even guys like me, even people with a high degree of skill can lose it. And what I want to tell you is that's okay. All right. Because relapse it's part of what happens. Now, I want to say this. When I've relapsed in the past, compared to my relapse this time, I put on less weight. I was more on top of what I was doing, and I was able to get back in shape much faster. But I still fell off. Okay. So even the best of us, and I'm world class at this stuff. Okay. I'm world class. You are not world class, or else you would be doing this podcast instead of listening to it. And I'm not saying that from a place of arrogance or anything like that, but just trying to tell you this is my life's work. I'm an expert at it, and even I have problems, right? Maybe you don't ever have problems, but it's good to be aware that relapse is part of the stages of change. So hopefully that makes you feel a bit better if you fell off track. Also, I want to share this with you, something I've shared before, and I'm going to keep sharing it. I've also brought data or information, research about smoking cessation. So people who want to quit smoking. Now, why would I talk about that? Well, because we don't have the same amount of information on obesity is kind of new, is what I'm getting at. Smoking has been around for decades longer than the obesity epidemic. And so we have much more information about it. And what we know is that it takes smokers 4 to 5 times to quit. And I want you to think about this. How socially acceptable is it to smoke in the United States? It seems like if you're a smoker, you're kind of a pariah. It's like, can I smoke in here? Hell no, you can't. Go outside. Get out of here. Nobody wants to breathe in your secondhand smoke, right? I don't want your death, your air pollution, you know what I mean? I'm being mean. Hopefully, if you're a smoker, listen, I know it's rough. I was a cigarette smoker when I was in my teenage years. I quit that and just smoked weed, but I get it, right? But what I'm trying to say is it's not socially acceptable to smoke in the United States. You can't smoke in most places. Most places will ask you to leave. People give you dirty looks because nobody wants to breathe in your secondhand smoke. And you know what? They're right, because secondhand smoke does cause, the more secondhand smoke people breathe in, causes more problems. So, and by the way, my mother, my biological mother, was a cigarette smoker. And, used to smoke all the time, smoke inside, ended up breathing it in. So I feel for you if you are a smoker, by the way. But my point is, it's socially unacceptable. So there's a lot of pressure to quit smoking cigarettes in the United States, right? But think about this. Being overweight or obese, we say that, oh yeah, there's all this fat shaming and there's this, all these things in society kind of showing us that we shouldn't be overweight or obese. But really, come on, look around at everybody who you're surrounded by. Most people are overweight or obese in the United States, 2/3 of the population, right? Over 66% of the population is overweight or obese. What are your family doing? What are your friends doing? What they do is they encourage and enable us. Hey, have a bite of this. Hey, have some of this. Hey, you want some more of that? You want another drink? We say that there's a lot of that. It's not cool to be overweight or obese, right? That there's a lot of pressure not to do it. But a lot of that comes from ourselves or from our media consumption. But if we look around our environments, and most of the people in our environments, they're overweight, they're obese, and they have the behaviors that lead to that. So it's very normalized, right? And so I want you to think about this. The point I'm trying to make here is that if it takes smokers 4 to 5 times to quit, and, even overweight or obese people, they're like, oh my God, you smoke? By the way, which is the number one thing that you should quit for your health, right? If you are a smoker, it's the number one thing in terms of like health prevention. I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but it's like, oh, do you want to live a long time? Okay, first thing, don't smoke, right? So I want you to think about that. So it's not socially acceptable. There's a lot of pressure to not smoke. Makes it's difficult for smokers. But for overweight and obese people, it's pretty much encouraged by our culture, our society, except for maybe fitness magazines and fashion models, okay, which are just a small percentage of our population, right? So if it takes smokers 4 to 5 times to change, how many times would it take a person to lose weight and to keep it off? 4 or 5 times at least? Maybe more, maybe 5 times that? I don't know. We don't know the answer, right? But I want you to keep that in mind. You're trying to do something that basically society is not going to help you with. Okay, all your friends are overweight or obese. I mean, it's all the people that we see, all our colleagues, the majority of people are overweight or obese. And the whole environment is set up that way. And I'm not talking conspiratorially here. I'm just saying that's the way it's ended up being. That's the end result of all the changes that our culture has made over the past few decades. Another thing to keep in mind is that it's okay to start again, but you also want to think, and we'll talk about this more, if you're doing a plan that leads to failure over and over again, then that plan sucks, not you. Okay? So the takeaway here that I hope you're picking this up. I hope you're taking this away from what we're talking about today, but falling off track isn't just normal, it's part of the process. When we're talking about change, and we're specifically talking about health and fitness now. So step one is that awareness. Listen, this is normal. It's more than normal. It's part of the process, right? In our society, we live in what scientists would call an obesogenic environment. Okay? It helps us to get fat, which is not something that most of us want. So the second thing, step 2, is to forgive yourself. And I want to ask you, have you ever said, I'm so stupid. God, I'm an idiot. How can I be this dumb? I'm such a failure. I can't believe I fell off my diet. I can't believe I drank all those drinks. I can't believe I went to that party and ate all that cake or ate all that dessert or ate all that ice cream. I'm always going to be fat. Oh man, look at me. I'm disgusting. Have you said any of those things or things to that effect? Does any of that sound familiar? It's interesting because I used to be super hard on myself. I used to call myself names all the time. And something worth considering is, would you ever say that to another person? Now, some of you are like, well, yeah, I would. But only if you didn't like them. Would you say that to someone that you loved, though? That's the real question. Would you say that to someone that you loved? Hey, you're an idiot. God, you're a failure. You are never going to be successful at this. Most of us wouldn't. Or if we did say that to someone we loved, we'd like, oh, someone needs some therapy, and that someone would be me. Would you ever say that to your children if they were struggling with changing their behavior? And it's also a little side note here. If you do say this to yourself, your children are picking up on your vibe, because children learn through example, not by what you tell them. Oh, listen, look, stand up straight, even though I hunch all the time and have terrible posture. Yeah, what do you think your kids are going to do? They're going to follow your lead. That's how we learn. Talking is just, it doesn't go deep enough usually. So back to our example here, why do we talk this way to ourselves? And more importantly, does it help? Now, if you're one of those people, if it does help you, okay, then maybe consider keeping it up. But for most people that I've worked with, when I ask them, hey, when you talk that way to yourself, does it help you achieve more of your goals? Does it help you stay on track more? Does it help you get back on the wagon? Or what does it do for you? And most of the time, in fact, I say most of the time, but I can't think of just one instance after working with hundreds of clients where someone said, oh yeah, when I call myself an idiot, it really helps a lot. For most people, it causes more stress and more pressure to succeed. And with more pressure to succeed, what happens when you don't succeed and you inevitably fall off, because that is part of the path? Well, you're even more stressed, right? In fact, sometimes the stress that you put on yourself causes you to fail. Can you see how that catch-22 is? It can really trap people. And I've thought about this a lot when it's come up in coaching sessions and people ask me, hey, how do I deal with negative self-talk? And it's a great question. Now, if you can't read a book and get rid of it, or if you can't, try one quick tip or any of the things that you've tried, it doesn't seem to stick. The answer is to go a bit deeper. And the things that I've found are, number one, therapy, coaching. I work with clients on this. Some clients need more than what I can do for them. I recommend therapy. A good therapist can help you. And a good style of therapy is cognitive behavioral therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy starts to helps you understand the relationship between your thoughts, your emotions, and your behavior. Because where are these automatic thoughts coming from? And how can you retrain your brain so that you stop doing that stop that self-sabotage? Very helpful. Some other things that can help, there's something called Ho'oponopono. And I don't even know if I'm saying it right, and I'm not going to try to spell it for you. But if you try to spell it phonetically in the Google search or DuckDuckGo, whatever you're using, it'll come up. Something will come up, and you can read about it. It's an ancient Hawaiian. I don't want to call it a therapy technique, but it's a way to release negative emotions. It's very powerful. I've been doing some of it lately, and when I was in a really tough situation with my dad last year, when he was nearing the end of his life, I used it with him. And it has to do with these 4 phrases, which is, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. I looked in my dad's eyes after we had a fight, and he was so angry about the state he was in, and he took it out on me, and I reacted. I counterpunched, because that's the type of person I am, right? I try to be as good as I can be, but I can't be any better than what I'm capable of. But I was able to come back after, and I looked him in the eyes. I grabbed his hands and I said, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And I said it 3 times, and he started, and my dad is not a crier, right? I mean, he's not real men don't cry type of guy, but we looked into each other's eyes and we both just started crying, and it helps. So looking into that, also something else you can look into too is something called metta. It's METTA, AKA loving kindness meditation. And I've been doing some of this lately. And what we do in metta is we do a meditation, but it leads to visualizing, at least the meditation I've been doing, leads to visualizing the parts of you that you hide away from other people, the parts of you that you're ashamed of, the parts of you that have done things that you, when you think about it, like, how could I have done that? How could I have acted in that way? And what we do is we lock that away and we just pretend it never exists, just swallow it down and pretend it doesn't exist, but it doesn't go away. Unfortunately, it's like a beach ball. You try to hold it down and eventually your arm starts getting tired and it pops up, and it usually pops up not when things are going well, but when things are going wrong. And now you know why so many people argue about politics on Facebook. So what this does is you start visualizing the parts of you that you don't want to integrate, that you don't want to even believe are actually parts of you. You visualize it and you start to integrate it, and you start to forgive that part of yourself. And then there's another level to it where you start to forgive other people, the people who you're angry at, who you hold grudges towards. It's very powerful. And I'll let you go from here. I don't want to turn it into a whole talk about that, but it's very powerful. So these are the things, if you're not able to handle this on your own, seek help and seek therapy, seek coaches, seek someone who can help you with the Ho'oponopono, seek someone who can help you with the metta, loving kindness meditation, and certainly work with someone. Don't just try to download it on an app, okay? I mean, that's okay to start, but really working with an expert is the way to get past this quickly. All right, so we've already covered a lot here. We've covered step one, understanding why it's okay that you fell off track and why it's okay to start again. So many people fall off track. It's part of the process. And, it even takes smokers 4 to 5 times to quit. Step two is to forgive yourself. Now, step three is to identify and isolate what went wrong. So what went wrong? Think about what you were doing. Think about your program. Think about the program. Was it the nutrition? Was it the exercise? Was it something else? Why did you fall off track? Was the diet too strict? Were you trying to do keto and you're just craving carbs like crazy? Were you trying to do paleo and it was driving you nuts because you had to order all the food? You couldn't just go out and buy it when you went to the store conveniently. Were you spending too many hours in the gym? Were you working out at home but needed the gym to stay motivated? Did you not see the results that you expected? Was it the plan that you were on? Did you have poor sleep and couldn't get yourself to exercise? Or did you struggle with cravings because of the poor sleep? Or maybe it has nothing to do with those things. You got so much stress in your life that you try to add more and you add too much and it ends up sabotaging you. Or maybe, like we've talked about earlier, did social obligations pull you off track? You have friends who are dragging you off to, even in the quarantine situation, coronavirus situation, social distancing, white wine and tapas, or, the Super Bowl happened, eating wings, pounding beer, short ribs. What was it that caused you to fall off track? And to the best of your ability, identify exactly why. Okay, write it down if you have to, and keep asking why. Well, for example, you might say, well, okay, so I fell off track of my nutrition because I want to lose body fat. And I know nutrition is the key to make that happen. Okay, so what was it about your nutrition that you fell off track with? Well, I was following a low carb diet, trying to do keto, and I had to, so I liked eating the fatty foods, but I kept having cravings for carbs. Okay. So why were you having cravings for carbs? Well, I kept my carb super low because I felt like I had to be in ketosis, right? Because if you have too many carbs, it knocks you out of ketosis. Okay. Is ketosis necessary for fat loss? No is the answer, by the way. So you don't need to be in ketosis to lose fat. So you need a different approach if you're craving the carbs, right? Sorry, that's the best example I could come up with. I hope that was helpful. But a lot of people have issues with strict dieting and they end up binge eating as a result. So they're strict binge eating. And that is a sign that what you're doing is way too strict. So keep asking why till you get to the root of what caused you to fall off track. And then that brings us to step 4, time to adjust your program. Based on your assessment, what did you need to adjust? If it was diet, what needs to be changed so that you succeed or at least improve upon the last time? If it was exercise, what about your workout needs to change? If it was sleep, what exactly is causing your sleep issues? Do you have some underlying medical thing? You got some prostate problems and you're waking up a bunch of times to pee? Or you got a noisy neighbor? What is it? Do you let the dog sleep with you and they're waking you up all the time? Do you have a newborn and they're waking you up all the time? What is causing the sleep issues? If it was stress, what is causing your stress? And what is the solution to coping in a better way with that stress that you're under? And if it was your social circle, how can you either, one, ask for support from those people, or if they don't support you, you have to ask, are they really your friends? Or choose or change who you hang out with. How can you do that? So make those adjustments. You've got to adjust your program. This is not about going back to what worked before. It probably won't work the same way. You're going to have to tweak it a bit. Otherwise, if it worked so well, you wouldn't have fallen off track. So make those necessary adjustments. And number 5 is time to get started again. It's okay to take a break, but here's the thing. Ideally, this is what I ask my clients to do. If they're like, oh, I fell off the wagon. It's like, yeah, okay, cool. But here's this. If you're falling off the wagon consistently, which some clients of mine do, especially when I work with them for 6 months, they fall off the wagon more than once. And it's like, okay, yeah, no problem. So if you've fallen off the wagon 4 or 5 times, what the goal is every time, make it shorter, make it take less time for you to get back on track. Another thing is to, if you're struggling with this, look and see if you have the all or nothing mindset. That's a huge problem for people. Oh, either I go to the gym for an hour or I don't go at all. That used to be me. Not helpful. Now I go, I'll do 20 minutes. If I got 40 minutes, I'll do 40 minutes. If I got 10 minutes, I'll do 10 minutes. I do short workouts, but I do them consistently and I do them frequently, and it really works. And it works for me. It works for my clients. It's about being flexible. Okay? But time to get started again. Do not spend too long off the wagon. Otherwise, you start to lose all the hard work you did. And you start getting sucked into the downward spiral, is what I call it, where you just you get stuck in a little bit of it. And if you don't pull yourself right out, you get sucked down deeper and deeper and deeper. And that downward spiral is actually, neurons that wire together, fire together. So if you, and we don't think about it like this, but if you have a habit of, if you don't exercise, you may think, well, I just don't have that habit. So I don't have a habit. But you do have a habit. You have a habit of sitting around, right? You have a habit of sitting around, lounging around, watching too much TV. You do have habits. So you get sucked back into those bad habits, or I don't want to call them bad, but the habits that you're trying to move away from because you know they're out of alignment with who you are, with your values, and they certainly are out of alignment with the behaviors that you need to perform to get you to your goals. All right, so that's number 5, get back on track. Now, here's a little bonus, like I talked about. The bonus is this, right? So many people, I'll just say it like this. If you want to supercharge your results, track what you're doing. Treat it like a science experiment. If you're struggling to lose fat, track your nutrition. Download MyFitnessPal. You can download the free version and start using it and start tracking your nutrition. It will help you. You can also write it down on a piece of paper. Personally, I have my clients use MyFitnessPal and I teach them how to do it. and they get great success. They spend less than 15 minutes a day doing it. They get massive results with the way that I teach them how to do it. But you don't need to hire me. You can just, you can download it and start going on your own. Don't expect that you're going to get the same results that I talk about, because I have a very particular way of teaching tracking in MyFitnessPal, but it doesn't mean that you can't get better results than what you're doing right now. And so many people, what they want to do is they want to like, okay, tell me what to do. So do a low carb diet, do a keto diet. Okay, so just get rid of carbs, get into ketosis. You don't need to do any of that, but you need to know more about food, because so many people think they know, well, I know I shouldn't eat junk food. Yeah, but here's the thing. You're hard to get into this, and I don't want to talk about it too much, but tracking your food is the thing that can take you to the next level. It is the thing you don't want to do, but if you do it, will give you all the results and much easier than what you've been doing before, especially if you've been trying diets like keto. You know, I don't hate the keto diet, but it's just so unnecessary, so ridiculous. I'll never do it. Even though I've probably been in ketosis with some of the things I've tried in the past. It's not necessary, folks. But what is necessary is you need to understand nutrition. You need to understand not just nutrition, but your nutrition habits. And by tracking your nutrition, it takes you to the next level. Another thing that I have my clients do is we use another app. We use my app, the Legendary Fitness app, which is just for clients, by the way. It's not something that, is for other people, like, join my app for $2 or whatever. It's for my clients only. And they track their workouts. I write their workouts for them. They track the workouts in the app and they get better results. And another thing that we track is we track measurements. So we track progress photos. We track waistline. We track weight. If my clients want to go and do a body fat test, which is what I encourage, I have them do that too. Listen, if you were in business, imagine being in business and someone asking you, okay, so how much money, how much revenue are you getting in your business? And you say, well, I don't know. But we make money. I mean, we have sales. We have customers, they buy things or hire us. So we have sales. Okay. And how much money does it take to run your business? Yeah, we don't really know that either. Yeah. Okay. Well, how are you doing business-wise? Well, we're okay. I mean, I kind of still struggle financially, but we pay our bills. It's like, okay, well, I always, when I get these CEO clients or entrepreneur clients, and they tell me, listen, I don't want to track. And I'm like, hey, listen, you don't have to track. I've got other tools, but let me ask you honestly. Let's say that, and most of my clients, they're more successful than me. They've been in business longer. They're more financially successful. I say, what if I came to you just, asking you for help because you're further along on the business journey than I am. And I said, hey, I got this problem. So I've got sales, right? I'm making money, but I don't have any money. If I feel like all my money is going just to keeping the business running. But I feel like, we're making money. What would you like? How do I get out of this? How do I make my business more successful? And I asked something like that. And without fail, every single one of them says, well, I would ask you to track your expenditures. Where are you spending money? Where is this going? Right? Where is the money going? How much money do you have coming in? Where's the money coming in? Right? Tracking is the answer. Being data-driven is the answer, especially in the world now where we've got so many tools at our fingertips. If you're not using data to help you, it's crazy not to, okay? It's just crazy. No wonder you're failing. No wonder you're struggling. No wonder it seems like this black box of confusion that you just can't figure out. You don't know what the hell you're doing, and you're not tracking the results of what you're doing. So tracking is how to supercharge your results. Another thing is to find your exercise tribe or your healthy lifestyle tribe. Find the people that want to go out and eat healthy meals. Find the people that want to go for walks in the neighborhood, even if you're wearing masks and socially distancing and everything else. Find that tribe. Who can you call right now? Who's someone you can reach out to right now? Who's someone who maybe there's already a tribe, a group of people, and who can you call right now and get with and start, meeting some new friends and start to make it more of a community thing so that you've got some social contract with your health and fitness goals, and it's not just all on you by yourself. Or how can you get your whole family exercising, right? I mean, how incredible is it if the whole family could go on walks? Your kids need to be active too. Even if they're thin and even if they're, they eat whatever they want, they don't gain weight. Listen, it's not about that. If you're doing exercise, it's a great thing and it's healthier for you. All right. So how can you either recruit people who are already around you? How can you join someone else's tribe that's already been established? How can you shift your peers over to people who are going to be supportive of your health and fitness goals? And then the last one, how to supercharge your experts. Hire an expert, supercharge your experts. So don't know where that came from, but supercharge your experts. I'm a supercharged expert most of the time. So hire someone, right? If you feel like, and I'll tell you, you may think, oh, Ted, you're just about to plug yourself. And no, I'm not. Okay. I've only taken one client this year so far, and he found a link and then set up a call. And I was like, all right, I'll take on one client. So, but otherwise, I'm not trying to get clients. But I will tell you this: hire an expert, right? In-person trainer or virtual trainer. We'll talk about that in a second. But in-person trainer. Now, let's say that you're a person who doesn't have the exercise habit down. I think an in-person trainer can be really good for that. They can teach you the exercises, how to do them properly. They provide accountability. But here's the thing with in-person trainers: you become dependent on them, and you gotta grow up. You gotta be a big boy or a big girl, and you gotta be able to do it on your own. You know what happened to me? How do I know? I've been a personal trainer for 20 years before I left the business. My clients, all in Miami Beach, they would work with me from winter until when summer came around. Then they'd take off to Europe for 3 months, and then they'd get fat again. And then they'd come back and we'd repeat the cycle. They were dependent on me. They would stay kind of active, but they would eat too much. And I felt like I was on a treadmill going nowhere with them. And they weren't going anywhere either, but they had less issues about it than I did. So that's what can happen with personal trainers. You just get on this treadmill where you're so dependent on them, and you're doing well when you meet with them. But then whenever you go off on vacation, whether that's for a week or several months, like my clients used to, you just totally lose it. So you want to become independent from them, but it's not a bad place to start. Now, online coaching, for me, this is for people who already have a solid base in exercise. They know how to do some exercises. They've tried some diets before. They know some basics. And they've worked, I work with a lot of people who did work with trainers. Of course, a trainer's not going to help you get in shape because you only meet them a couple hours a week. And then you go and screw it all up, all the other 160 something hours in the week that are left by yourself and with your friends and family. So an online coach, what I transitioned to is I don't hold people's hand like that. Now, I really coach people up. I tell them what to do. I make it super easy for them. I solve problems, but they're the ones that got to go do it. They're the ones that got to do their workouts. They're the ones who have to follow the nutrition plan that we set out for them. They're the ones that need to stay on top of it. And that, while that may sound like a bit of a racket, the truth is it works really well. Empowerment works well versus creating dependency. And my clients come out of my program knowing exactly what to do. Even if they fall off the track, like some people do, they get back on it. They get back on it, they know what to do. So hiring an expert, it's really the fastest way to make a change, but really understand where you are. Are you a person who is completely new? Then maybe a personal trainer is a good place to start. If you're a person who's, you've got some experience under your belt, you were an athlete in high school, but then fell off and got busy with work and then got out of shape. Okay, well then you don't need a personal trainer. You really need someone to help you with your lifestyle, especially if you're an executive and you're like, I don't have time to exercise. Yeah, you need accountability and to get yourself back on track. That's what I've found. You need that accountability to really hold your feet to the fire, to take away, I don't have time. Okay, do you have 10 minutes 3 times a week? Oh, yeah, I could have that. Okay, so you do have time, you just don't have an hour 3 times a week. So, you know what I mean? I usually don't get people who are that difficult anymore, but I've had situations where people really just were committed to their excuses, and but I take away all of them and get them to own their choices, right? And some people find, you know what, it's not worth it. But so anyway, some people find that, hey, it's about owning our choices. What I'm trying to say is like, okay, if you want to get in great shape, but you're not willing to do what it takes because you feel you don't have the time, even though you do have the time, but you'd rather prioritize other things. So just say that then. But let's get rid of the BS. Because when we're BSing ourselves, we're out of integrity, right? We're not acting with integrity. It's a better way to put it. And of course, if you're really struggling with motivation, you're struggling with maybe some other issues, mental health issues, work with a therapist. I worked with a therapist for a year after my wife and I separated, all through the quarantine pandemic. When my dad died, I worked with a therapist, ended up deciding to leave that therapist, and I'm looking for another one. But it works. Therapy works, provided that you get a person who's good. And here's the thing, they don't need to be the best in the world. They need to be good enough. You need to have a good enough relationship with them that you and get benefits from your work together. So don't be looking for the best, okay? Because you won't even know how to even quantify what the best is without getting some experience. Work with someone, figure out what you liked about working with them, figure out, even me, I'm sure some of my clients would say, that was great what he did, but if he would have done this and this for me, it would have been better, right? Nobody is that rock solid. Maybe Tony Robbins. I don't know. Maybe not. So anyway, find someone to help you. That's my last bit of advice on supercharging your results. And remember, and just one more thing about this, right? Every gold medalist in the Olympics, every professional athlete who you know by name, and most CEOs who you don't know by name, they all work with coaches. And a lot of people, they don't talk about it, but they work with therapists. A lot of people are doing this. Who are the people who are doing this? The successful people, the one that successfully handle their issues because they realize they can't do it on their own. All right. So that's what I want to leave you with. Just a brief recap here. How do you get back on track? Step 1, understand why it's okay that you fell off track, and also understand why it's okay to start again in case you're having that, I just want to give up feeling. No, step 2 is forgive yourself. If you're struggling with self-hatred or lack of self-respect or a lot of negative self-talk and it isn't going away easily, again, that's when you want to look at some of the things that I talked about, therapy, coaching, some of that self-love work, Ho'oponopono, loving kindness meditation. And number 3 is identify and isolate what went wrong. Why did you fall off track? What was it? Number 4 is after isolating the obstacle, adjust your program accordingly. Make those necessary adjustments and get back in the game, right? Which is step 5, get back in the game. All right, don't take too long of a break. Get back in the game. And even when you're on that break, still do something. Don't have that all or nothing mindset. And then the bonus steps are tracking, build your tribe, and hire an expert. So that's what I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember what I said at the beginning. If you want to help us out, help us to help you. Go to legendarylifepodcast.com/survey and answer those questions so that we can start to bring the relevant content, have the relevant guests on the podcast to help you solve those problems, to help you level up your life so that you can live legendary. All right. So that is it. Have an amazing week, and I'll speak to you soon.